Live, live, live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Two Brothers Fishing Podcast, presented by Hickman Outdoors, right here on YouTube. That's right, Jeremy and I have already rebranded. We were going to wait till Christmas. Nah, figure we're going to a championship next week, and we got some other stuff. We'll get into that here in a minute, but we went ahead and just pulled the trigger and said we're going to do it from now on. So we'll actually sit down at some point in time and talk about fishing with Gramps and the channel that was dedicated for with my grandfather and what we're going to be doing with Hickman Outdoors. But since you guys are live and in the house, that we're rebranding, and this time we're carrying the tribute from my grandfather with Fishing with Gramps over to our father, and then passing on the legacy to those that follow us down the road. So Hickman Outdoors will be Jeremy and I for the majority of the time. You'll see videos of us together. You'll see videos of us that we each contribute. My sons will probably contribute some videos as well. My youngest is into like solo camping, also kayaking. He pretends to fish while he's kayaking, but he's really out there just love being in the kayak. And then, he likes to solo camp and hike and things like that too. But we'll get in and do a more in-depth video. Eventually, these live streams will also become a podcast when I learn how to, make podcasts and then put them out there on all the other platforms. And then that podcast will stay Two Brothers Fishing because the main primary topics will be fishing. We'll have bait discussions and rod and reel and things like that, doing that stuff on the live, but then also creating that podcast type show for other people to listen to when they travel. Because I find, since I drive an hour to 90 minutes almost anywhere I go to fish, I'm, eventually pulling up some podcast or another to listen to if I'm not listening to my regular Sirius XM. But that's where I catch up on Tackle Talk and some of the others as well. But, that's the format where we're going. And then we'll be doing that all of the year. But tonight, we're gonna keep it to about an hour because the Braves are in a vital game that could end the season at 8:07. So I will be done by 8 o'clock tonight. But we wanted to come back live to talk a little bit about what we've got coming up. But and again, we want to jump backwards. For those of you who caught the live stream where I spoke to the winners of the recent GRBY Championship, Jeremy and I wanted to come on and talk about our trip down to Patoka and the things that entailed there, and to kind of set it up, since Jeremy hasn't fished many GRBY events. Last year I went to the GRBY Championship, and I was more focused maybe some on the media than I was trying to fish, but I was still trying to catch and put up a bunch of fish to at least get on the board. But it was just one of those things that it was just one of those things where last year it was like I caught one fish one day, and then I caught one fish the second day, and then I pretty much got off the water after lunchtime to kind of go back to the. I really wanted to get a good parking spot, so I didn't have to walk that far. You guys know me with my knee. It was one of those things. But Patoka Lake is hated by most people in this state. It's a big lake. There's some big fish in there. Somebody always finds them, but it's a lake hated by many. It's one of the two that's really big enough to host the championship. It's got plenty of boat ramps that can handle 100 to 150, kayaks and whatnot. It's just we hate it because eventually, evidently somebody will find them, and many, many, many don't and won't. But my only goal this year, since I qualified for the championship, was to try to catch more than one fish a day, and really the goal. Now, in the GRBY format, the grassroots bass yakin, any size bass counts. And, the club is meant to kind of like Catch 22 and the Knucklehead. It's kind of train the next generation of anglers. But that being said, it is the biggest kayak club in the state with 18 different tournament trails, many on the lakes, many on 3 or 4 different river systems, and and then 2 different trail events, and that's going to grow even more in 2024. So that said, you still have to have a room for a lot of people to be able to go and fish these championships. But this lake is many call it the Dead Sea, and it's just sometimes it's that hard. But I mean, it's one of those things where I set a goal, and Jeremy and I went and pre-fished, and really it was just to try to find any fish. Because honestly, if you catch 5, 7 inch fish both days, there's a good chance you can cash a check. I mean, literally. I mean, if you can find five and you bring in 10 fish, there's a pretty good shot you can cash a check. Now, if you get a kicker, it might bump you up even more. But that's really kind of what it takes. My goal this year is to get in the top 20. I think we actually, and this year they separated the championships. They have a lake. It used to be all in one. You had a lake series, and then the lake events and river events. This year they separated. We had a lake championship, and in the spring there'll be a river championship. So there was actually a little bit less people because a lot of people fished the river events and they didn't qualify for the lakes. But we had 83 people fishing in it. And, my goal was to get into the top 20, which, last year I finished in the bottom third. And a lot of people went the whole tournament, and people did it this year too, went the whole tournament without catching a single fish. So it's just the way it was. Now, one of the cool things they did to kind of expand it a little bit this year is on the first day of the tournament, they added a team tournament. And so anybody who is in GRBY or fished a GRBY event could sign up for the team tournament. And then last Sunday, we drew out names to build teams of 3. So we had 21 different teams. And oddly enough, Jeremy and I, got drawn together with a Marine Corps veteran. So it was pretty cool. So Jeremy, signed up to do the team event because he wanted to come down and fish and hang out for the weekend too. So we jumped into a cabin with some of the guys down there, because I'm kind of like the GRBY staff, and that was one of the cool things about it. So we were able to kind of be down there and hang out with a bunch of great dudes. Had a great weekend. Jeremy and I went down the weekend before with the boat and ran around all over the lake. And then Jeremy was like, look, dude, we got to go to the bottom of the lake. Well, kind of tell them what you found, because it really helped. It really made a difference. Well, when we went and searched the rest of the lake, you had one more place that we had to look. So tell us a little bit about what you found, bro.
Yeah, when we came back around closer to the boat ramp we was going to be putting in at, I had found on the maps in one of the creek arms, there's rock quarries on either side, and I couldn't tell on the map if we could actually access it or not. So I was like, let's run down there and check it out. And we almost didn't go because the entrance, there's a bunch of stumps, real shallow, wasn't sure how the boat would do. But it turned out to be the right call.
Yeah, it was just deep enough to get the aluminum boat in there. And we kind of figured it would, because there was a high school tournament going on at the same time we were down there pre-fishing, and we saw a few boats coming out as we were kind of heading back that way. So we figured, well, if they were back there, then we must be able to get to wherever it was they went. So we idled on back and, kind of lifted up the trolling motor and made our way into, we only ended up going into one of them.
Right.
And it turned out to be the right one. But while we were pre-fishing, we were throwing a little bit of everything. And this was probably 3:30 in the afternoon. What sun was way up, but we caught several little fish, on Senko and Jeremy's worm and things like that. So, we were like, okay, there's at least fish here, which was good. Like I said, they were dinks. Now, I had actually gone out in my kayak, check out another place the weekend before that. So this was 2 weeks before the tournament. And I went and kind of hit some spots that a friend shared with me. And I actually caught some decent fish, but they were like in wide open water on points. And, I caught like a 12 and a 14, but I wasn't getting a lot of bites. I mean, the whole day I was there, I only got those 2 fish, but I did see like a monster, probably about a 5-pounder, laying along a log. And I wasn't even trying to catch it, but I made note of where it was. But again, those were bigger fish, but we needed many fish, and so we needed lots of bites. So we kind of determined, and we talked about it after the day was over, and we both I think we caught like 6 fish that day, dude. What, like in an hour or so? So we're like, okay, this is a rock quarry. It was about 20 feet deep in the middle. There were these rock bluffs and breakoffs like around certain edges. and we knew the fish would be hiding in like the little shelves of these in the rock quarries because we could see the bait fish sitting along the shelf. And we knew coming into the tournament days there was a cold front coming. We were sitting there watching the weather. The tournament was on Saturday morning, and we went from like 80 degrees to like 50 degrees on Friday. So we knew that the fishing was going to be tough. But like Jeremy said, if there's going to be any place in this whole lake that's going to stay pretty much stable, it'd be in those rock quarries because you got 20 foot of water. It's basically you're fishing in a lake that's a small or a pond within a lake. So like I told Jeremy, I said, this is my best bet. Now, it was a pretty good run for me in the autopilot, and for Jeremy with his pedal drive, I don't know that it would have been worth the effort for him to go down there. So what did we develop as our game plan? Since you were fishing for the team event, we needed 3 fish for the team event. And obviously I was fishing where I had to have a limit. So kind of break down what our strategy was for day one, bro.
So strategy was let everybody else go, including JT. And then I started at the boat ramp we put in at, and I worked that creek arm. The only problem that I ran into is the wind shifted, and we had like 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing directly into where I was going to be starting.
And a starting temperature of 39 degrees.
So I pedaled from the minute I got on the water until I almost died when I got off the water. But I finally figured them out. I mean, I had a good day in terms of numbers, just couldn't find any size to help.
Yeah, because the goal was for you to try to swing for the fence, staying on the main lake, looking for like one big one.
I mean, I was throwing a 12-inch worm. First time I've thrown it all year.
What was the smallest fish you caught on that thing?
8 3/4. And I'm like, I've never experienced that.
Yeah,
So
it's like the worm was heavier than the bass that he caught.
I didn't even know that the bass was on.
Yeah.
I actually lifted my worm up out of the water, and he comes shooting off into my lap. I'm like, what the heck? But hey,
so you don't know, yes, Berkeley makes a 12-inch power worm, and this was like one of Jeremy's like Lake Fork.
Go big or go home.
His goal wasn't to catch fish. He was trying to catch the fish that would like anchor our team if Dominic and I, who were fishing in the tournament, were to catch, something of decent size. The goal was to have Jeremy swing for the fence and, try to catch one, tank, which just didn't work out that day with the wind. Because coming back, I had wave caps coming over the front end of my kayak. So that's kind of how Jeremy's day went. But, I'll tell you a little bit about mine. So I take off at about an hour before daylight. And like I said, it's 39 degrees and I'm running all the way down to these, rock quarries. And it was probably about a mile run or so, if that, probably 3/4 mile. And I get down there in plenty of time to, to kind of get set up as the sun's coming up. And, I'm the first one there. So I know nobody went past me to go into the quarries. So the goal was to fish just outside of there because it was like a bay, big flat. And, start out throwing top water. I had a buzzbait tied on. I had a chopo tied on. And the key thing too was the fish we caught in the quarries on pre-fishing were smallies, except for Jeremy caught like one 8 or 9 inch bass, largemouth. But I was going smallie fishing. So that's, how I baited up and was prepared, lo and behold, that I wouldn't catch a single smallmouth all damn weekend. But I caught my first fish, which was about an 8.5 or 8 3/4, like 5 minutes after lines in. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was funny. No, it was a little bit later than that because I threw a chopo and a buzzbait for a good while and didn't get bit. So I grabbed something that I wanted to throw on a combo that I wanted to throw, and it was the 2.5-inch Yamaduki. Right. So I had it set up on a little 2-aught EWG on my spinning rod. And the thought was that this little thing, it looks like a little bait fish. And when I went back into the quarry to fish, I would drop this thing on these rock ledges, making it look like a bait fish. Now, I've caught some fish on the bigger Yamaduki throughout the season, and thanks to Wendell's Fishing for that, because he's the one that actually showed me that people are catching fish on these things. But we knew it was going to be a super finessey, super light bite. I mean, as much as I threw a jackhammer and crankbait and topwater, nothing hit anything moving for me all weekend. So it was a super finesse bite. So what it came down to being was either a wacky rigged Senko, a weightless Texas rig Senko, or this little Yamaduki. And I threw a jig, I threw chatterbait, I threw it all. But throughout the day, it was, for the most part, that little Yamaduki from Yamamoto was the juice. I mean, it really was. I would, if I was throwing it down like a deeper 10-foot ledge, I would put it on a Ned rig. And then I also left one on, weightless Texas rigged on that little 2/0 EWG, because then it has the slow little fall. But I've always wondered, what do these fish think these Yamadukis look like? Because when you look at it, it's like, okay, they're trying to copy a turd bait, but not really. Once I saw it in the water dropping, I realized, because I could see the bait fish in the rocks.
Before you say that, bro,
go ahead.
I'd like to know, the people in chat, would they even throw something like that? Because
yeah, it was funny.
The reason I saw you get them, and I'm like, no, I'm not going there. So, and I haven't thrown any of the turd baits and all that.
But because I'm really before that, I was going to just throw a Ned,
right?
Because
right.
I bought the three, or the big TRDs, and then I bought the TRDs, and I was going to throw a pumpkin, because when we were pre-fishing, I was catching them on the Senko or the weightless, either a wacky rig or a weightless Senko. But when we were at Legacy before we started, for whatever reason, I was like, Graham, do you have any of the 2.5 Yamadukis? And he was like, yeah. And so I went and grabbed them, and I'm so glad I did, because I'll tell you, and now, since the water we fished was super clear, but after seeing that Yamatanuki in the water, especially the little one, not the big one, the little one, when you watch it fall, the body of the Tanuki looks like a bait fish, and then that tail on it, it literally shimmers, and this looks like a bait fish in the rocks. It was such an aha moment for me once I saw it in the water, and then I watched it fall, because I would drop it on the top of a rock pile, and I would twitch my spinning rod just enough to lift it off the edge, and it would basically just tumble down the rocks. But it looked like one of those bait fish sitting within the rock piles.
You were so surprised. You actually called me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, Graham's going to love this. And I was like, holy cow, you actually caught a fish on that. And then instantly I'm like, wow, I wish I had some.
Yeah. I mean, it was so funny. But so on that first day, again, the goal was to catch any fish, because you catch, 5-8 inch fish, that's still 40 inches of fish, anything bigger. So, I mean, I caught quite a few fish that day, and I ended up, I think, on day one with like 2 8 3/4, a 9-inch, a 10-inch, and then a 14 something, which I caught towards the end of the day. So, I mean, at that point, after day one, I was still sitting in the top 20. Tom Brewster wanted to know what color I was using. I was using the green pumpkin, and I got two different packs. I got the green pumpkin red flake, and I got the green pumpkin blue flake. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just, both of the flakes were pretty, they shine pretty well. But I think I caught most of my fish off the red flake, because, like Jeremy and I talk about, fish can see red. So that little red flake, with the darker green pumpkin, color, gave it a nice, I mean, it looked in the water, it looked pretty good. So I was really surprised at how much that bait, how well that bait really worked. And again, I was fishing for any fish. The funny thing is, within the first 5 minutes of the tournament, one guy had a 20.5-inch fish and then a 19. And then I think he caught a 15 like 2 hours later, and then his bite shut off. So, you think about it. I catch 5 dinks and he catches those giants. I'm right there in the mix with him because he only had 3 fish. It was just kind of one of those things. But like I said, somebody always finds them. And so, yeah, pretty much the guys who ended up 1 and 2 all weekend, they were just on a good bite, and they were on a good bite, and it's just the way it was. But again, my goal was just try to get into the top 20. So I was feeling really good after day 1, and I told Jeremy. Now, sadly, I told Jeremy, here's my game plan. Once I catch 5, I'm going to join him on the big lake and try to find a big, which I had a chance. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Mike?
So I had my limit by like 12 o'clock. So I'm like, I'm not messing with any of these fish anymore. I need them for tomorrow. So I got out of there, and I didn't want anybody else to see where I was either. So I jetted out to the main lake, and then I met up with Jeremy at the boat ramp, and then he kind of walked me, up the bank where we were talking, and he was kind of telling me what he had noticed throughout the day. So he kind of set in behind me and let me get the first shot at everything while we were talking. And I did have an opportunity. I mean, Jeremy was behind me, kind of what happened. I think it was about maybe an hour to go in the tournament or so.
Yeah.
We're coming up this bank, and I'm throwing the Senko at this point because, trying to get now a bigger bite. And I put away the other stuff. I literally cut it off and, kind of stuck it down under my seat. And then I was flipping a Senko along this bank. Well, lo and behold, I've got the spinning rod in my hand. I got the wacky rig tied on, flip it up on this bank next to, I didn't even realize that the laydown was there, but this bass grabbed it and started pulling drag. And I'm yelling at Jeremy, dude, I got a good one. And I'm on the other side of the log, which I finally saw because it ran from the bank out. It was pretty long, about 30 yards. And this fish had gone from the bank under the log, and they basically had come under me and was trying to get out to the main lake. So I'm trying to get to the other side of this log while keeping tension on this fish. 8-pound line on my spinning rod. And I almost got to the other side of this log. But like I said, I'm trying to keep tension and trying to keep him from pulling and rubbing too much line on there. But before I kind of got to the other side of the log where I could try to pull it back through and finesse it, snap my line. But it bent that NRX Plus pretty good. So I knew that was
a fish.
It was probably a 4-pound plus. I mean, so probably something in the 18-19 range, which really would have helped the effort. But I mean, the strategy worked. We just didn't get the fish in the boat. Had I been throwing something heavier line, who knows? I may not have gotten bit on it because it didn't go after any of the stuff that Jeremy was throwing when he came up through there the first time. And it just, maybe I was, throwing the right thing at the right place at the right time, but broke off a really good fish. So I think I ended the day, I might have been under the top 20. I don't even remember, but I was up there close, but I had a limit. And on a lake like that, just getting a limit is a huge accomplishment. So I was feeling pretty good about myself. So, we go back to the cabin and we're hanging out with the dudes and everybody's talking about, and, a couple of our buddies were also in the running. They both had limits and they were within shot. And, so the next day, I get up and, Jeremy's done at that time. So he had debated on getting up and going out and, just trying to find, it was cold. He hit the road. I launched out the day 2 and he hit the road and was going to go back and see Bullet Dog and stay warm for the day. Did you end up going home and going fishing that day, or did you go out the next day?
No, I actually haven't even been back out since last weekend.
Okay. So I go out for day 2 and I have an even better day in a way. So, to be honest, I went and tried the same strategy, except I didn't even really bother with topwater going back this time. I went straight back to the shot, the spots, and I went to work at trying to catch fish. And the second day is an hour shorter because, we want to have the awards and everything so people can get on the road and get home for work, the next day if they were working. I was lucky enough to have Columbus Day off, so I didn't have to worry about it. But I actually got more bites the second day. It's just there were 4 of them I just could not get in the net. Either they would jump and spit the bait. But again, the Yamaduki was the juice. I mean, I tried throwing some other things, trying to get a bigger bite as well, but it seemed like they only wanted that Yamaduki. So I ended up with, I think, 7 bites that day, and I only got 3 in the boat. But lucky for me, the last one, which I actually caught this on a bank that, like, our GRBY ALY, the Angler of the Year, had just gone down that bank, and I caught a 15.5 out of there, again, on that little EWG hooked weightless Yamaduki, but I caught it like 15 minutes after he had just gone through there and fished it too. So again, I was showing him something different and caught a bigger fish out of it. But I just had Liz, I was actually going to talk to you about that before we come down, because I know we need to go heavier line based on the conversation that we're going to have here in a couple minutes when I get this recap done. But yeah, I ended up catching 3 fish. I didn't get my limit. I ended up fishing like 26 or 23rd. I don't remember. Just outside of the top 20. But, I had enough bites to get the limit. I just couldn't get him. I just couldn't get him in the boat. So, it was one of those things where I could be disappointed, but there were people who went all weekend long that didn't catch a single fish or even 2 or 3 fish. I lost more fish than some people had bites. So I'm not going to cry over that. I still far exceeded where I was at last year. Last year I was in the bottom third. This year I was in the top third. Still caught some decent fish. But yeah, it was just one of those things. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Sometimes fighting those little fish, you don't either get a hook in them, or they jump before you can get a net on them. It's just one of those things. I had my chances, and we did the strategy. We did what we needed to do to find the bite. Excuse me, jeez. We did what we needed to do to find the fish and get the bites. Just didn't fish clean. Just couldn't get them in here. But no complaints whatsoever. We had a great time. I wish so. There's no video going to come out on this one. Day one, I forgot my USB cable for my back one, so I tried running my batteries. But before I even really started catching any fish, the batteries were dead. And then the next day, I remembered to grab a USB cable, and then it was the wrong type. It was the old USB instead of the USB-C. So we didn't get any, video.
My SD cards were sitting right here.
Oh yeah, and you forgot yours too. So you know what? We just enjoyed the weekend. We really did. I posted some stuff on Instagram, and kind of those who followed along. You kind of saw the story as we went, but it was one of those things that it was a good weekend. I cannot lie. I can wish I caught the fish that I didn't, but at least I got the bites, and we learned something too. So if we have to go back there again, we have a little more knowledge than we did before, because the good fish that I have caught down there, it's like a spring and summer bite. In the fall, I have no idea what these fish are doing, but at least again, we have a little something in our arsenal should we return there again for another championship in the future too.
I'm going back.
I mean, it was one of those things where it was, kind of cool. And like my cousin Mike said, better than being at work any day. 100%.
I'm going to go figure that place out. I can't let it leave me with under 12-inch fish. That just set bad with me.
It's just such a big lake. And, I might try again too. If they announce that the championship's going to be there next year, which I'm hearing rumors that it's not, once I actually find out where the GRBY Championship is next year, I will fish whatever that body of water is a lot more. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those kind of things. So the reason why, and it's a good club. It's the biggest club in the state. One of the cool thing is for each of the championships, they actually give away a kayak trailer. So this year, the Lake Series got a credit basically for $4,000 for an on the water innovations trailer, and then there's a different trailer maker that's doing one for the River Series. But they give away like the champion gets like a fully loaded Hobie 360 PA14, the $4,000 kayak or whatever. Then there was another kayak that they gave away. But one thing I did appreciate, and it kind of caught me by surprise, is every year they give out, their Angler of the Year awards, the awards for the champions, and then they also do trophies for tournament directors because it takes a lot of time to do that. Well, I didn't even know this was coming, but they actually gave me a trophy of my own for being the voice of GRBY Talk. And they kind of caught me off guard, but I really appreciate that. I mean, I guess I never thought that they would, do something like that for me doing, the live streams and stuff like that for GRBY. But I gotta thank Jim and Cole and Ryan and the guys at GRBY for awarding me with one of these trophies for being the voice of GRBY Talk. I love to talk about stuff anyway, so hey, why not? But again, thanks to everybody at GRBY for letting me host the show. I really appreciate that too. So that was really cool. So now that part of GRBY is, or the season is over for GRBY, well, Jeremy and I's season's not over by a long shot because next week, Freedom Squad, yes, all three of us, me, Matt, and Jeremy, are hitting the road again, and we're going down to the KBF Championships down in Guntersville. We're leaving out Monday. So Freedom Squad is going on the road again, and we're bringing our cameras. And Jeremy and I are promising that we're going to do a good job of putting cameras everywhere and kind of really capturing the road trip again, like we did last year with the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship, which is in the spring next year. It's a different championship than the one we're going to this weekend. This weekend, it's kind of like the Trail Series Championship, the State Challenge Series Championships, which Jeremy and I both fish in the Challenge Series for the state of Indiana. And, we're going to go down and fishing in that. But Jeremy and I also qualified for the special tournament called the 10 Invitational because he and I both finished in the top 100 at the national championship last year. And the key thing about the 10 Invitational is if you win that tournament, you win a seat in the 10 house, which is KBF's the 10 tournament. And there's lots of good videos out there. I mean, in the past, they have rented like a mansion. The top 10 anglers in KBF go head to head for special prizes. It's like a real honor to fish in that tournament. But if you win the 10 Invitational, you become the 11th of the 10. And our good friend and teammate last year from Team Yak Shack, when Jeremy and I teamed up with Glenn Landstrom and Brian Sparks, who we're going to be fishing with this next week, Glenn won the 10 Invitational last year and then got to go crash the 10. So that was really kind of cool. So Jeremy and I is like, well, shoot, we qualified. We got to fish it while we're there. So why not? Plus, we're really going pre-fishing for the Knucklehead on Veterans Day weekend. So we're looking forward to that. We leave Monday, the tournament. And like I said, I'll be giving updates while we're down there. We'll be in a house with me, Jeremy, and Matt, with Brian Sparks
and
Antoine or Tweezy
is in the he's in the chat. So
yep, I saw Tweezy in the house. So me, Jeremy, Matt, Anton, Brian Sparks, and Glenn Landstrom, a hammer in his own right, because he's the man, So Jeremy and I are going to be in good company with three of the best anglers in the state of Indiana, all under one roof. So that's going to be really cool. But
we're going to be on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jeremy's been doing the research, so I will probably follow people around during some of the pre-fishing. I might get out there and do some filming with Anton, and then follow Brian around and follow Glenn around and see if I could get some video before. Of course, I won't edit and put anything out until we get back because I want to respect where they're fishing and stuff like that too. But Jeremy and I are going to go down and do our best to try to represent Indiana and finish, as high in the state as we can. But yeah, Daniel's right. It is a solid house. So, me, Freedom Squad is going to be in a house full of hammers, and that's what I'm going to affectionately call it, is the House of Hammers while we're down there. I already, So the good thing is we get to go down and use this championship as a pre-fishing event for the Knucklehead, which will be again a few weeks after this. Sly Fox is looking forward to all the fishing tips that you're going to share. We will certainly share those
right
after Knucklehead. Right after Knucklehead, I'm sure, because I'm not going to have time to edit anything until after that.
And he's on a different team, so we ain't playing that game.
That said, we'll be sharing plenty with Antoine and Liz when we go back down there on Veterans Day weekend post show. But yeah, Team Gramps is going to be pre-fishing and gathering up some information as well. So that's going to be a good time. Guntersville should be picking up right now. Chad said it's fishing pretty good. It's one of those things where, I'm really going down trying to chase a PB, and obviously I want to finish as high in Indiana as I can. Who knows? You accumulate enough points, you never know what can happen. So, Jeremy has been studying the maps, because we were going to go fish another place farther north. We may save that for Knucklehead, but it's funny when Brian invited us to stay in the house with him, and then he showed us a picture of where it was. Jeremy was just like, that's my spot number one, because he has watched, I don't know how many YouTube videos and tournament recaps and researched all of the Major League Fishing and BASS events on Guntersville for this time of year. He's put together a solid game plan. So he likes to plot to mat and plot out and find fish and places to fish that matches his style of fishing, and then my style of fishing, because he'll sit there and be messaging me during the day, hey bro, do you want to fish? Well, of course, I want to throw a chatterbait on grass, so yeah, he's been doing a lot of research.
I've got a spot for Matt that holds fish, very conducive to his paddling.
Yeah, because
it's
Jeremy also plans whether you're paddle, pedal, or power, and so he can put us all in the same area. But the place we're staying, there's several ramps around too, so he's literally going to hand map a bunch of maps and say, these are all paddle spots. This is the stuff that you're looking for, and go for it. And that worked really well for us on Kentucky Lake. Matt would have probably had a really good shot at getting in the top 100 had he not he had a pad eye rip out of his kayak and cost him several hours because his kayak was taking on water and he had to deal with that. But no, Jeremy is like our tactical planner when it comes to where we're going to go fish and then how. And yeah, it's going. Yeah, like Tweezy said, it's going down next week at the championship. So Tweezy is actually tied for first in the state of Illinois because he lives in Terre Haute and fishes both states. But he is going to be in a duke it out with the guy from Illinois for the first to become the Illinois champion. And I don't even know if the guy's going to show up. So if Anton goes down there and catches a few fish, he gets those points and a half, and he'll easily win the state of Illinois. I say easy, but he's going to go down and try to fish his way into the 10 Invitationals too. So we're all duking it out to try to finish as high as we can just for that honor as well. Fishing with Cotton wants to know if we have any plans to come down to Texas. Jeremy, I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, we do intend to come to Texas.
Yeah. So with us having lived there for a good bit of time, and oddly enough, so I guess I can say it now. My son-in-law has, I hate saying my son-in-law, my favorite English lad who married my daughter a couple years ago has enlisted in the United States Army and is going to be using that process, to become a citizen, but he also wants to serve the country that he's going to become a citizen of. So he's enlisted in the Army, and he is going to go to boot camp at the end of this month. And so Faith is going to come up here and stay with us while he is in training. And then if he goes to Korea, which I expect that is probably going to be his first duty station, she is moving. Well, she's already signed a lease in Dallas, and she's going to be moving to Dallas, Texas. Oddly enough, where she was born and where she hasn't been back to since she was born. But she's got a good friend down there. She's going to continue working on her nursing degree while working her current job, which is fully remote. So she's going to go to Texas. So that just gives me and Gran, more excuses to come back down to Texas, even though Gran still has family in Houston. So yeah, we do plan on coming to Texas at some point in time next year, at least to fish, some of the lakes. I don't know. Possum Kingdom is one of the Bassmaster events. That could be a possibility as well. Fishman Cotton is like, well, if they come to Fort Hood, let me know where I live. Oh, that's crazy. You were probably there when I flew down there and picked up Hunter when he ETS'd a couple of years ago, and I may not have even realized it. But yeah, I flew into El Paso, and then we drove back to Indiana from there. But yeah, so we'll have to keep that in mind too. So, and can we call it Fort Hood anymore? Didn't they rename them all? Cabezos, and is that what Hood is now? I know where I was born, Fort Gordon is now Fort Eisenhower, and I don't remember all the new names, even though I'm still working for the Department of Army and I have to call them by the new names. Even though Fort Benning, they renamed to Hal Moore, and I'm 100% behind that one because I love Colonel Hal Moore. So, yeah. Yep. Like Trevor said, they just finished PK last weekend for Bass Nation, and, there's a lot of good results out there too. So, I mean, that may be one, like I said, I want to fish some of the Bassmaster events. I saw one of them was Guntersville. And I know that is going to be that's going to be one that I'm going to go to because we got friends down there and we're going to be fishing it a bunch anyway. So that'll be a good time. But yeah, so next week we are going to be heading south to Guntersville and pre-fishing. We're going to drive down Monday, pre-fish on Tuesday and Wednesday, and yeah, yeah, Southwest Indiana Outdoors. We actually met Chase last weekend at the American Legacy Fishing meet and greet. I was kind of the guest on Friday, and then Andrew Hayes from Tackle Talk was there on Saturday while Jeremy and I were fishing. But we got time to talk and BS with Chase down there, and definitely be hitting the water with him again at some point in time because he lives near one of our favorite places to fish that's got the biggest bass in the state on it. But once Jeremy kind of moves down this direction next year, yeah, it'll be a lot closer drive for him, and I'm sure he's going to be living down there chasing those big fish. Let's see. Trevor Wagner said he's also living in Texas, and he's going to be fishing the PK Bassmaster next May. That'll be cool. And so is Fishing McCotton, too. So, yeah, we may have to look at that and see how far of a drive that's going to be.
I told you the other day I was going to pull out my maps and see what I have on Possum Kingdom because I'm pretty sure I got my old maps of the lake in the closet.
Okay, cool.
I have every other lake in Texas. I assume it's in there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'll work. Liz says she needs a net. If you haven't seen my video on not using a net, get a net. If you don't have a net, I'll be bringing an extra net. So I bring a little bit extra of everything. I've got an extra Freedom Squad measuring board. I'll be bringing at least one, if not two extra nets, just things that you never know you're going to need. But Brian Reed says he's looking for tournament in PA. I know they just had the Susquehanna, which that will be on the map again next year for Bassmaster. And Jeremy and I fish with KBF, and we'll be KBF members for life. Well, we're both KBF life members anyway, but we're also Bassmaster life members. So, we also want to support Bassmaster because we love the classic. And we love what Steve Owens has done with Bassmaster since he took over the train wreck from the previous, organization, whoever it was running the show. But Steve Owens has done a phenomenal job at building Bassmaster into building the kayak side of Bassmaster into the equivalent of what the boater side is. And the cool thing is a guy that Jeremy and I know, Josh Shrenko, who is the host of the Smalley Talk podcast here in Indiana, who is a hammer up on the river up by where Jeremy lives, literally went out to Susquehanna for the last Baster event of the year and put the smackdown on them boys. So, yeah, when Jeremy caught that 20-inch bass this year, you have to send in a certified picture, which our friend Bobby did for Jeremy, and they sent him a yep. That's the Ashigan is the brand of the smallmouth clothing line, and then you've also got a 20-inch bass shirt too. Is that what it was? It's like a 3-pack. Yeah. So anyway, Josh Renko from Indiana went out just because he wanted to go, fish a Bassmaster event and on the Susquehanna. I guess he and his father used to go out there and fish it every now and then. And the dude went out there just to kind of to support his Wet Boy Nation and went out there and put the smackdown on all the pros and came back with that big blue Bassmaster trophy. So, and that's a lifelong goal for a lot of people. Even if, and through that, he qualified for their, the Bassmaster Kayak Series, and they share the stage with the boaters. They have their championship on the same Bassmaster Classic stage that the boaters do. But, how many folks would in their life love to go win a tournament and be able to hold and keep one of those Bassmaster trophies for the rest of your life? It's just one of those things. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, it was something else too. So yeah, we're really looking forward. We're really looking forward to our trip down to Guntersville this weekend, Monday. And then again, regardless of how we do, we're going to go out there and swing for the fences. But, when you put yourself in waters with big bass, you know how it is. Anytime you make a cast, you feel that thump on the line, it could be your new personal best. So Jeremy and I are going to have to upsize lines. He generally fishes with heavier line than I do. I'll throw 8-pound on my spinning rods. I'll throw 12-pound on my bait casters that I'm throwing moving baits and chatter baits and stupid tubes. And, but no, I think at the minimum I'm going to have is 15, and then I'll upsize everything else. But Daniel wants to know if Jeremy is in a 106.
Yes, I am.
Yep, he is in the 106 PDL. But yeah, we will have the Old Towns on the road, and Matt will have his bona fide and doing his thing and paddling away like the pro that he is. So Liz says nothing less than 15-pound car. I was going to ask you what your minimum was, because I'm glad to hear that you say 15, but that makes me feel better.
She fishes like I do. If her minimum's 15.
Hi, dear. Do you want to come over and be on camera? Okay. You just harassing me. She loves me. She's coming in to warn me that the Braves play in 15 minutes. I'm going to warn you. I'm almost done. Shut all the before the game. Yeah, I got so when Riley hit that 2-run bomb last week to give them the game, she was a little perturbed. Everybody's saying hi, Grant. You want to come around and be on camera? No. She was all dressed like a pro yesterday, and then she goes out to some range today, and she's in like one of those orange safety vets and a hard hat. Oh, I'm sorry, construction or something. And yeah, we can't talk about it.
That's for Liz. I have 12-pound too, and it's unused because I bought the wrong stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know people that throw that other than my brother.
Yeah, you do.
Other than my brother.
Yeah, Mike says you're a chicken. You should come around. I don't know if it's Mike. I don't know if Mike's at work watching from the fire department there, or if he's at home. He's probably at work, knowing him. But yeah. Anywho, so did we have anything else to talk about tonight, bro? Before we're not fishing this weekend. We're going to spend all weekend recovering from last weekend and upsizing. Oh yes, and then we have Peyton coming over this weekend, which I'm all about because I'll take the snuggles and paw time while I can. And the other two are still, up north with mommy and daddy doing their gymnastics. So I know how busy. Yeah, Mike says at work. Oh man, I'm gonna miss the chili cook-off too. The firefighters always have a chili have a chili cook-off thing, so I'm sure Mike's going to have his fire hot chili up in there too. But I'm not sure if that's going on next week while I'm gone or the week after, maybe when I get back. I'm hoping for that. But it'll cure what ails you, that's for sure. Anyway, I don't. We're just for those who are paying attention. We have Drew Gregory scheduled. He was going to join us tonight, but his wife got some sickness, and so he asked if we could reschedule, which we did, which was fine because Jeremy and I kind of wanted to do a recap and talk about the GRBY Championship and then what we're going to be doing next weekend too. So pay attention to Instagram. Yes, I've renamed my Instagram to Instagram.com/jt.hickman. Eventually I'll set up a Hickman doors, like we're selling wooden doors now or something.
Garage
I'll
store.
set up a separate Hickman Outdoors channel that we'll post stuff to. And then obviously with the three of us going down, there'll be some stuff being posted on Freedom Squad because we'll be out doing Freedom Squad type things, so I'll definitely have that board with me because that's my lucky board, and I used it this weekend for the championship and it worked. But yeah, Freedom Squad to be on the road. Oh, Mike said the chili thing is tomorrow. There's my reminder that the Braves are playing the Phillies in the final crucial game.
Hey, JT.
Oh, and he doesn't have any chili in it. Damn it.
It's not like you don't know where the dude lives and you could go
Which
to
is
chili.
true. I mean, I used to come out and go over to the firehouse after I got done deer hunting or fishing, and they probably always had a pot of chili around at some point in time, but I ain't been out there in a while. Of course, we killed my favorite lake on the base, and it just breaks my heart. I don't even want to go fish there anymore. Anyway, so I don't think we have anything else for tonight, but again, follow along on Instagram for both of us. We'll be posting. I'll try to post some stuff on the community tab here. But yeah, the House of Hammers, that should be a fun video series because Jeremy and I are planning on running our cameras for all the time that we're down there. We're going to bring some interviews with Antoine, with Brian Sparks, and Glenn Landstrom, three of the best anglers around. If you don't know their names now, you will in the future if you follow any of the tournament stuff out there too. But yep. You got anything else for us tonight, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm gonna channel my inner Greg Blanchard. So I'm gonna capture all the things, all the stuff, and just have a good time.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way to do it. And we're just, that's what our focus is, to go down there and have a really good time and see if one of us can work our way into the tent house. That would be that'd be a really cool accomplishment just in itself too, but we'll see how it goes. All right, Jeremy, I will see you Monday and we'll be hitting the road. For everybody else, thanks for hopping in tonight. Yeah, we're going to go have a good time and see if we can't find us some fish. I really hope one of us catches a tank. I mean, that would just be awesome. But as always,
I want
get outside. Get outside while you can. And do what?
Make some memories.
100%. Good night, everybody.
Good night.